Council, we will call the Senate Regulated Industries Committee meeting to order. We have one item on our agenda today. It's Senate Bill 73. Senator Tillery, if you'll take the podium and present that to us. Your mic is live.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to present this bill before this committee, and thank you for hearing it so early in the session. Senate Bill 73 should be relatively easy for this committee. I think every single one of you are co-sponsors of it, so I appreciate your help on that matter. The Senate Bill 73 is a bill that we pass. It says that the Georgia Do Not Call list can be enforced even if the group making the phone call is not necessarily the group who benefits from the phone call. So let me walk you through that for a second. Let's pretend that you are company, car warranty company A, and car warranty company A decides that they want to violate the Georgia Do Not Call list. Well, there's a penalty for that, right? It's about $1,000 fine. I think right now it's $2,000. But if they were to say, we're not going to do it so directly, we're going to contract with a company out of the country to make that phone call to you, to then talk to you about your car warranty, then obviously there's no way for a Georgia citizen to seek a remedy because that company is now based in Bangladesh or India or wherever else it would be around the world. What Senate Bill 73 does is it says, hey, listen, you can't get around the do not call list by contracting with a company that's out of the country or out of the state or somewhere that's harder to reach. If you're the originator of the call, you're the benefit factor of the call, then that third-party liability extends to you. It's a bill that has received wide support, obviously, in the Senate, has received wide support across the state, and it's a bill that even the folks who in this room have told me that they're not against it, they're just not for it, they're neutral. They've also told me that they kind of like it too. So all we're trying to do is restore some peace to the dinner table of Georgians and make sure that the Georgia Do Not Call law has teeth that even reach outside of Georgia.
All right, do we have questions? Senator Albers, you number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator. This is a great bill, and I fully support it. I'm just wondering what we can do about those text messages we keep getting as well.
We're happy to have friendly amendments at any point in time, Mr. Chairman. Speaking of friendly amendments, there wasn't someone spoke with me yesterday about an amendment. I ran by the chair, and I'd have to give it to you verbally. I apologize. We haven't had time to write it up, but there would be an amendment, and all it does is tries to make it clear that there was some language that a Georgia company wanted us to include this year to make it a little bit more palatable for them. We did that. It makes it clear that while it is not a defense to use a third-party company to make the call, in other words, you can't say, hey, I didn't make the call, Senator Rhett made the call, therefore I'm not liable. You should be able to raise as a defense that you've at least tried to enter into some agreements with Senator Rhett to tell him don't make calls to those folks who are on the do not call list. So we included that as a defense per a Georgia company, but someone caught yesterday that maybe about when we did that we didn't include that if the company had its own protections and was making the calls that needed to be added. So there is a amendment that I'd like to propose, Mr. Chairman, at the right time.
Yeah, that's the one you brought by yesterday. I have no problem. It seemed like a technical change.
Yes, sir.
I think Senator Brass may be prepared to bring that if he understood it well enough. Would you just articulate to the jury what you're wanting to do so we can get this down? The jury. Did I call it the jury?
Yes, sir.
In between meetings today, I was.
Well, the funny thing is, Mr. Chairman, I think that when you said jury, I got a little bit nervous, but when the folks in the room heard I was offering an amendment, I'm pretty sure they got a little more nervous. So, on line 144, if we come in there and after the word defense, we say, for consideration by the trier of fact, and then it continues with its regular reading, if the defendant has, you add a comma, with respect to, and then we'll add 2 words there, itself or the person or entity that made the telephone solicitation, then there'll be a comma after that. What that amendment does is it says, hey, if you had an agreement with a third party and you were working with them about policies and procedures that should have avoided them violating the do not call list, or if you had policies and procedures yourself and you were making the phone calls, that you would be able to raise that as a defense in either situation. And that, I think that's very, very fair.
I don't think I have legislative counsel here, but I've got this as.
Stay there.
Oh, got it? Did you follow that, Sean Marie?
I'm gonna say, could you repeat it?
Sure.
Thank you.
You want me to
All right.
repeat it, Mr. Chairman, or you?
We got it. We'll repeat it when it's offered. Let me ask you just a couple of other questions.
Sure.
Am I right that this bill passed the Senate last year?
Yes, sir. I think it passed unanimously.
I remember it coming to the floor, and I don't remember any opposition to it. Is this significantly the same bill, or have you made any other changes other than this minor amendment?
There were some folks who had concerns once it went over to the House, and we made the concessions to alleviate their concerns. And their concerns were wanting to be able to raise the defense of trying to avoid making calls that didn't need to be made. And that's what was included in that amendment.
Okay. And the only other major change, it seems like, to the original statute to get these harassing phone calls off of us was to allow this to become a class action suit as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then if you did that, in addition to enjoining these harassing communications, you could get your attorney's fees and cost and damages in the underlying action?
Yes, sir. I think when we had them separate, the penalty was double in the past. It was $2,000. Actually, Senator Summers made an amendment last year to make this bill drops it to $1,000. He made an amendment last year to take it back to $2,000. In the spirit of fairness to everybody, we went back to the $1,000 that we started with last year. Because I don't think at $1,000 or $2,000, the issue was no one would ever bring the case. You're making one violation, it's just not worth enough. You've got to be able to aggregate those violations in order for it to reach a monetary value worth bringing.
Okay, well, let me get you to look real quick on page 5 at line 116. It references 2,000 again. Is that intentional, or does that need to also be reduced to 1,000?
No, sir, I think that's intentional because the Attorney General has the power to make a $2,000 civil penalty, but if you're going to bring it individually, then we said, we're not trying to take care of lawyers.
All right. Okay, any other questions for the author? Senator Rett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does the senator yield?
Yes, sir.
I have a question for you. Thank you for bringing this bill, but does this just cover cell phones, or does it also cover pay phones? You may not know what a pay phone is. Don't worry about it.
I think it takes care of any calls that are on the Georgia Do Not Call registry.
Any other questions? All right, we have, not yet, Senator Brass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, do you get more signatures on your bills before the appropriations passes or after?
Yeah, that's very true. Yes, sir.
Okay, just checking.
Very true.
All right. You ready to make a motion there? All right, let's hear from Senator Ginn.
Yeah, move do pass on LC 365425. I believe as amended, if I remember.
No,
I
it's
heard, did I
right
hear
off
outside,
right
did you make
now.
an amendment?
All right,
Yeah.
is there a second? All right, we got a second. Now that the bill is before the committee for discussion, are there any proposed amendments or other discussion? Senator Brass.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer an amendment, if you will allow. On line 144, after the word defense, would I like to add the words for consideration by trier of fact. And then after the word has, would like to add a comma. And then after the word to, I would like to add the words itself or.
All right.
And then on down to line 145, after the word solicitation, I would like to add a comma there. So lines 144 through 145 would read, be a defense for consideration by trier of fact if the defendant has, with respect to itself or the person or entity that made the telephone solicitation, comma.
All right. Is there a second to Senator Brass's? All right. Senator Summers seconds. We'll take action on the amendment first. Any discussion on the amendment? All right, all in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Now we will consider then your motion, Senator Ginn, motion do pass, LC 365425 as amended. I guess that's by substitute, Sean Marie now?
Yes.
All right. Any discussion on that motion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand.
Did you have a second?
You were seconded earlier.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously.
Okay.
Let's go drink some Forster beer.
Get back busy on those appropriations, and don't forget the request of this committee.
And our little stuff.
That is the only item we had on our agenda for today, but in our folders, each member has a notice of our committee dinner scheduled for February the 22nd. It's at a really cool place called the 57th Fighter Group that's on the runway of Peachtree DeKalb Airport. I'm told that our Appropriations Chairman lands there on occasion in his plane, and Senator Kennedy, the pro tem, took his flight training lessons there, his pilot training lesson. It's pretty neat little airport, but we have a large room, and we welcome anybody that would like to help co-sponsor that. Just get in touch with Vicki. She'll take care of you. We'll start at 6:30. There'll be a buffet dinner. There'll be an open bar, and then there is a DJ that will start spinning records after that. I know there are conflicts. A lot of other committees might have dinners the same night, so if some of you have other dinners, feel free to swing by afterwards for us, as we have Terry Lindley says she will teach us how to do the foxtrot. We'll find out how that works out. Committee members, if you would please RSVP to this, have your admin get in touch with Cindy so we'll know for sure an accurate head count, since we're getting charged by the head. We will meet Thursday afternoon. We're finally getting a little action in the Senate. I've got two other bills assigned to us. One deals with the Solid Waste Trust Fund, another deals with an exemption to certificate of need requirements. Those are Senate Bill 95 and Senate Bill 99. I'm not sure which of those two we'll hear. It will more than likely be hearing only on one or both of those bills. So if any of you have interest in those subject matters, please make sure to have that on your calendar so you can be heard at those hearings, and you may want to review those bills before that time. Committee members, I don't think we'll be taking action on them, but be thinking if you see proposed amendments, and bring them to us in advance so we can do a good, thorough, deliberative review of those bills. And with that, we are adjourned.